Local shelters that are specifically inclusive of transgender or non-binary people are bracing for what could be major changes to their funding strategy following that executive order on gender.
Denver 7's Danielle Kreuter spoke to two gender-inclusive shelters about the potential impact here.
You want an orange or a pear?
Orange.
This doesn't need to be a political issue.
Inside the Gathering Place in Denver, the focus is on women and gender diverse people.
When we support the most vulnerable in our community, that we actually are strengthening our community as a whole.
About 15 minutes east, they have a similar mission at the Dolores Project.
Many of our transgender guests will say that if they couldn't stay at Dolores, they would sleep on the street rather than at other places that don't feel safe to them.
Federal funding for both organizations is potentially caught in the crosshairs of one of President Trump's first executive orders. It calls for the government to only acknowledge two genders and for federal funds to not be used to promote gender ideology. It also rolls back this rule that allows equal access to shelters based on a person's gender identity. About 45% of funding for the Dolores Project comes from some sort of federal support.
It's a significant amount of our budget that comes through federal dollars, whether that is direct government grants that we've applied for and received, or through state and local funding that is pass-through dollars that comes from federal funds.
The Gathering Place has received 3 to 5% of its funding directly from the federal government and another 10 to 35% from state and local funding.
We know that could really have an impact on how we carry out our mission.
While it's unclear how President Trump's two-gender policy will be implemented, one thing is clear: these organizations do not plan to stop serving trans or non-binary people, even if the federal government can only acknowledge male and female.
We work with transgender and non-binary people every day. I can tell you that they do exist.
They're hopeful that if federal funding is impacted, local communities may help support their cause.
Donate, educate, volunteer, and advocate are the biggest things I could say to our community.
I'm Danielle Kreuter, Denver 7.